Okay, so let's transition into ego as a double-edged sword because we have said it, in entrepreneurship and in a lot of parts of life, you have to have irrational confidence because
Yeah.
you'll have a whole bunch of people that want to tell you what you can't do. And you have to be able to tune that out to really focus in on what you know that you believe because it's your story, it's your goal, it's you that has to be able to achieve these things and you're responsible and accountable for it, but then it can also turn around and be your undoing. So confidence builds things, but ego can also break them.
Yeah.
So why is certain level of arrogance necessary to build something new? And then when does it become dangerous?
Yeah, yeah. So, and kind of the first part with the question itself, not saying anything about the question. I think it's a perfectly great question. But the word arrogance, I think too many people attach a negative connotation to that, and I don't think it has to have a negative connotation. It just is what it is, right? At the end of the day, you're not going to be successful in entrepreneurship if you don't believe in yourself, right? So there
Yeah.
has to be a certain level of arrogance, not only because you have to believe in yourself in order to be successful, but there's a lot of, again, failure and rejection is part of the process. There's no overnight success in entrepreneurship. There's no,
Mm.
hey, the first time my first idea and I went out and immediately I became a millionaire. It doesn't happen, right? And if you read the books of every successful entrepreneur where they unpack what led them to success, you start to get the nitty gritty of the 10, 20, 30 years of struggle to get to,
Mm.
but when they were struggling, no one wanted to talk to them, and that's why you didn't hear of them then. But once they, of course, make it, then they're everyone's darling, and now we want to tell their story, and it just seems like, oh my god, well, I hadn't heard of this person yesterday. Now I'm hearing about them today, and they're this wealthy, whatever.
Mm.
And it's like, well, yesterday when they weren't wealthy, no one wanted to talk to them. That's why you didn't hear about them. So you didn't hear of all the struggle that led to their success, right? But so when you think about it, and I think in a previous episode I talked about Kathy Hughes in Radio One
Yeah.
and being rejected like 35 times for a loan before she finally I think it was time 36 finally got a loan to buy her first radio station. Or Thomas Edison, coming up with 10,000 ways that wouldn't work, to create the light bulb, and finally 10,001, it worked. But if you think about that, for any normal human being, that amount of rejection is just going to kill someone if they don't have this trait of perseverance and persistence and self-love that can be translated to be arrogance, right? When other people see it, it's like, if I'm looking at that person and I'm watching them go through all that failure and hearing all these no's, it's like, why do you still think so highly of yourself? Well, that's the only thing that's going to get you through that, right? So you just have to, and I mention this to people, fortunately, the first 11 years of my career were in sales, and
Mm.
you hear no all the time, every day,
Yeah.
multiple times. And what you have to do is the only way to survive is to change the meaning of the word no in your brain to not today, right?
Yes.
And so you're going to hear no, but your brain hears something else, and so now it's easier to get back up the next day and take your
Mhm.
shower, get dressed, and get in your car, go to the first customer, and go through a day of, again, you're probably going to hear no more than anything else, but you just know that every no leads you to every no is going to lead you to a yes, right? Eventually, and that's why you just keep plugging away. But again, everyone's not wired to be able to think that way, and
No.
when you can't, the probability of success in entrepreneurship is incredibly low, if not zero, right? Because you absolutely have to have that level of arrogance, that, not in a bad way, it's just arrogance that I have an idea, I think it's a great idea, I'm going to do everything that I can to make this idea succeed. I don't care how many no's I hear, how many failures I experience. I'm just going to keep plugging at it day in, day out until it works, because I know it'll work, right? And some people call that arrogance. Some people just call it flat out crazy. But I tell people, if you're an entrepreneur, embrace the word crazy too. because you have to be a little
Yeah,
crazy. I mean, to do this. I mean, who would want to wake up every day and hear no 100 times a day? It's like, I mean,
it's
that can
true.
kill the ego. So no one's volunteering for that. But if you decide, hey, I'm gonna, I, I, I have a dream to achieve something, and I know that part the way to get to my dream is going to have to persevere through a lot of the rejection and a lot of the no's. I'm going to do it until I achieve whatever my vision or dream is. Right?
Okay. Well, I mean, there's so many things that I take away from that. One, arrogance to me is someone else's perception of that person's confidence.
Yeah.
So they may see it as arrogant of, oh, well, you believe like you're on to something, da 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 da. Whatever way they view it, it's their perception of someone's confidence.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about irrational confidence, that's where it may be perceived as arrogance. But there's things that lead up to it. And what you've unpacked is a lot of times we'll see people that are successful, but what everyone else sees is the final iteration. They don't see the iterations that led up to it. So
Yeah.
that's where you said there are a lot of people where nobody was talking to them. That those were the earlier iterations until they nailed the thing that they needed to say the way that they needed to say it and the timing and everything else that went along with it.
Yeah. And I
Where I
mean,
would say it,
no, I think when you think of that word arrogance, people mistake it. So I look at it as it can be taken either way. But I look at it as I think a lot of myself. Right. That doesn't mean I think any less of you. I just think a lot of myself, right? So I'm not baking into the meaning of the word that because I think of a lot of myself, I think less of you. I think that's when arrogance can be negative. When thinking a lot of yourself translates into I think I'm superior to someone else. Yeah, that's negative. But that's not how I'm looking at the word. I'm looking at the word of the definition of word of thinking a lot of myself enough that I'm going to persevere, no matter what's thrust in front of me, so that I can continue to take one step forward every day.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's to me, there's belief, there's confidence, there's irrational confidence. There's a lot of ways that are that we could describe it, but those are more internal
Yeah,
because you know what led up to you feeling that way and having that belief in yourself, as opposed to how it could be perceived by other people because they don't see all the rest of the things that led up to it.
yeah,
I think where we're talking about arrogance where it can be dangerous is that.
yeah.
It's where you believe you know better than other people,
Right,
but you need the other people for your product or your service to be successful.
right, right.
That's where I would say arrogance kicks in.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I believe what we're describing are the iterations, the
yeah,
people that do the work leading
yeah,
up to it to say, well, I didn't come up with this by myself. Yes, I came up with the idea, but I ran it by some people to make sure that I was on the right path. So when someone says you're just arrogant, you believe that you figured everything out, they're basing it on their perception. They're not basing it on the 10, 15, 20, 30, however many people that you may have spoken to that
yeah,
said, no, this is an idea. This is a good idea. This is something that you should bring to market. And that's where that confidence kicks in because you did your due diligence.
yeah,
So for
yeah.
me, I would say it's great to have that irrational confidence and belief in yourself,
Mhm.
but then you validate it by doing soft launches and beta tests and things like that to be able to get other feedback to make sure that you're not operating with blind spots. But other people that don't get to see that work may see it as you being arrogant because they don't see the work that you put in. So
Yeah,
if someone says, arrogant to me, I'm like, okay.
yeah,
Like it may come across as arrogant because I
yeah,
smirk
yeah.
when someone to say something like that to me
Right.
because I'm like, you clearly don't know the level of work that I put into it. I have
Yeah,
friends where they're like, oh, you just said that. And I'm like, you have no idea the level of overthinking that went into me
yeah,
making that
yeah.
simple comment.
Right.
So I've got facts and things that I can back it up on. I've got
Yeah.
experiences that I can reference. I'm just not giving you all the work
Mhm.
because it's not a math problem. I'm not showing you all the work. I'm showing you the result because the result realistically is all most people care about. So
Yeah, yeah,
I think it's a difference, and it's one of those things where that's the beauty of the English language. One word can mean multiple things to different
yeah, yeah,
people.
yeah.
I really just bring it back down to it's someone else's perception.
Right.
And I think that's where it can end up throwing some people off. But